And I want to thank the organizers for this great event, and really looking forward to exchanging ideas with all of you. So today I would like to talk about what we do at Kopernik. Kopernik, that's an organization that I co-founded 13 years ago. And we are trying to do things differently to have a better impact in development sector. So just to, as a background, I have spent first half of my career mostly with the UN, and I worked in different countries. Timor-Leste, immediately after the independence. I also worked in the immediate aftermath of tsunami, earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia. I was also in West Africa, Sierra Leone. Then dealt with some of the very first peace building fund project. And I was also involved in some of the UN reform initiatives in New York. And I was really enjoying everything within the system. But I started to feel a little bit uneasy because I wanted to do more. And I'll tell you a few incidents that triggered me to think about doing things differently. I talked about tsunami and earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia, and I was in Indonesia, and a lot of companies started to approach the UN. Coca-Cola came, Yamaha came, Toyota, and some of those consulting firms came, and they said, look, I know this is really a significant disaster, and we want to help you guys. And UN side, it was not ready to respond to those offers. Some of the issues, I think, is ideological. Oh, these are the for-profit companies. They want to make money out of this disaster. We should not work with them. And other people said, actually, they should just give us money. We don't know how to work with them. But all these companies actually wanted to use their expertise to help, not just giving money. And this was kind of stuck in my mind, like, oh, okay, so there's a lot of players wanting to help and take part in development. And we need to figure out how. And then I was looking at the fund flow with a World Bank colleague. So immediately after the tsunami, a lot of support were expressed, right? And then the government of Indonesia also decided to allocate significant amount of funding, $2 billion from the Indonesian government side. And the multilateral, which is like the UN and the World Bank, pledged to $1.3 billion. Bilaterals, USAID and JICA, etc., $2 billion plus. And then private companies, the amount of money that was coming in from this actor was quite big. And this is really changed the thinking of myself and a lot of other people involved in development. There is a huge potential here, but public institutions like the UN has not figured out how to leverage this funding. And then there's also many other things happening in international development. Off-grid areas, people are burning kerosene light to have very dim lighting with very harmful smoke coming out. And then there are a lot of startup companies making and designing and making, producing very clean energy, low-cost light to replace these kerosene lanterns. And by the way, this is one of the most popular products, LED light for the developing countries. But this was developed by these very young guys in their 20s, they're Stanford graduate, and no significant development background. I say this because in the UN system, if you don't have 5 years of experience in development, or if you don't have degrees from reputable institutions on development, it's very difficult to get a job. So these guys who would probably not hired by the UN institutions, and they are making much bigger changes in the landscape. And I also saw that the MIT's some universities were also trying to bring a different type of ideas into development. As you know, MIT is an engineering university, but they were actually leveraging very low cost and simple technologies, testing them to be used in the poor communities. And also there are a lot of other things happening. Funding flow started to change. The global giving, which is now kind of established, I think they've been around for nearly 20 years, but they're one of the first ones to enable individual donors to support different development projects. They use credit card and PayPal, etc., and then fund project. Very different way of fund flows compared to the ODA, which is basically dependent on the taxpayers' money. And Kiva, again, they're also peer-to-peer, so individuals funding project, but this was lending for entrepreneurs. So there are a lot of new things happening, and we thought, okay, I was kind of trying to do new things within the UN, but at some point, okay, I think maybe it's easier if I create a separate entity and do things that I was interested in doing. So key approach, we wanted to engage multiple partners, including unusual suspects. We want to take risks and try new things. Let's use a lot of data and aim for collective impact. And that led to the activities of Kopernik, which activities of ours includes finding unmet needs and test potential solutions and find effective solutions through the testing and share with others. And I'll tell you a little bit more about this in the coming slide. So if we think about the innovation process, right, we need to have, of course, clearly recognized problems. That's the first step. And in order to address those problems, there are many ways of doing it. And out of which, more promising ones, we actually conduct a lean experiment. And based on which the result, we say, okay, maybe this has more potential, let's do it in a larger scale. And we stop here. And we want this widespread adoption by others. We are not growing ourselves. We basically are trying to play an R&D role. So we stay lean, but trying to have more impact in this sector. So the first one, unmet needs identification. So what are the remaining challenges in the developing countries? And we used to do a lot of this very typical report. And there's a paper version, and there is online PDF versions, and looking at the different aspects of, let's say, smallholder farmers' challenges. What are they growing? What are the bottlenecks? Why are the price so low when middleman buys the crops, etc.? And at some point, we thought, I think we should talk about these challenges in a different way as well. in addition to this traditional report, which led to the creation of the VR for SDGs. And this is a platform to share the challenges, articulate the challenges that exist in the poor communities. And we'll have a session after this. You all have an opportunity to try this. But this is using the 360 video, so you can actually look around you. You can look down and have a more immersive experience and better understand the context and then challenges themselves. And we were using it in some of the international conferences when we were talking about our activities. And we also started an online program with University of Melbourne and then Gajah Mada University. And so they used to have, this is part of the master's program in international development. And part of this program was a field trip. And they were sending students to different parts of Indonesia. And then the COVID hit, they were no longer able to do that. And they came to us. I saw your VR thing. Can we do something with the VR? And then so we decided to basically go to different locations and document different types of challenges that communities are facing, and then use that video as part of the class and discuss why this issue exists, what can we do about it. So that was some of the content of the class. And after that, we started to get some interest and then started to also conduct similar classes in other institutions, including Hitotsubashi. And so what we do is, for example, this was some of the topics that we picked for the Melbourne universities. So the smallholder farmers, what are the challenges? So we have a VR 360 video for that, but that is not enough. So we have a background information and reading list, and plus the non-360 video as well. So we are combining a different type of content to give sufficient information for the students. If this was only 360 video, I think it's fun, but it lacks a lot of information. So it's about complementing the different, more traditional way of sharing information. Now, so the needs, right? I talked about the needs. What are the problems? So the first, that's one of the things that we do. So identifying challenges. But after that, we will generate ideas. Okay, what do we do with these challenges? And conduct lean experiments. And I want to share some example. And this is, unlike Jeffrey's example, this is very, very low-tech. You will probably think like, is this it? But it's very simple. So this is a rubber tree. The rubber farmers cut the bark of the tree to get a latex out of it. And this is an ingredient for a rubber. Right? Very, very important. It's used for tires, etc. Without this, our life will be very, very difficult. And it's in Indonesia. And the farmer told us that they have a big problem, which is rain. During the rainy season, which lasts for 3 or 4 months within a year, this latex is washed away, and their income will disappear. Okay, rain. And the farmer himself had some ideas. I think we need something like this. That's all. Okay, a hat. You need a hat? And I said, okay, well, but do we need, like he said, I don't think I should buy like 500 hats. So we talked about the different ideas and then came up with this extremely simple rain guard, which can be produced using the locally available materials only. So something like this, right? But we shouldn't stop here because we don't know if this works or not. Now let's do an experiment. Okay, so there are trees without this shield and trees with this shield. And we had these two types of rain guards because this one was much cheaper, but it was too soft, and we were not sure if this will actually stop the spoilage. And so we did put these into different trees, 75 trees in total, and we collected the data on the amount of latex that can be collected through these trees. The gray bar is the latex from trees without, so basically the baseline. And orange, the two different versions, had a lot more latex collected. So this extremely simple idea resulted in a significant reduction in the latex loss. So we do conduct that kind of very simple experiment, but we also work with different companies, startups, big companies, like Benesse. We were testing very simple educational toys, basically repeating the multiplication process. That's how you remember. And this is a toy with Mitsubishi Electric. This is a portable fridge for the fish sellers who are selling fish, carrying the fish in the bucket, but it goes bad because it's so hot. So this is the fridge, or with Unilever, malaria or dengue prevention product. So we kind of do a lot of collaboration to test early stage product concept, product ideas. And also universities play a huge role. So with some of the universities in Asia or US, Europe, especially with the engineering schools, engineers come and they kind of come up with a very simple design, and we test, we collect data, and some of them actually get used in a larger scale. So we work with a lot of different universities. Now, what are we going to do with this result, right? So we have this platform we call a solutions catalog, where we put the result of the experiment. And you see this effectiveness rating, 4 bars, actually very good. So on top it's a rubber rain guard. Because that worked very well, we are putting on the top. And if you go down, there are many, many other projects with a different rating. But if we look at the aggregate, out of 39 experiments that we conduct, very strong accounts for only 5%. And moderate, which is like, okay, it worked fine, but not really, is a majority. And so this is really telling us and reminding us that it's not that easy to solve those challenges. But it's so important to keep trying. So this is, so, and then one of the things, so I said we stop here, but what we want is, one of the things that we want is a replication. So if solution is effective, we want other organizations to adopt. Not us making it bigger, but others to adopt. And this is actually recently happened with the GIZ, which is a German equivalent of JICA or USAID. They learned about our rain guard. They are also supporting the rubber farmers. And then they adopted a few thousand rain guards to provide to the rubber farmers in Indonesia. So that's really great development. And another thing that we do is a spin-off. So if something goes well, we actually spin off. So we have actually spun off 3 organizations out of us. One was Rumbia, is a non-profit. Second one is called the Perfect Fit. This is a reusable menstrual pad for schoolgirls. And because one of the challenges that we found was one taboo around the menstrual hygiene, and also the waste produced through the disposable pad that people were using. So we did an experiment, And then the team worked on this project, decided that they're gonna make this into an independent company. So it's been running for the last 2-3 years. And recently, last month, two months ago, we had another spin-off called Maggie Farm, which they try to build a circular economy out of food waste. So there are a lot of food waste, right? We don't finish food, we just discard. And in Indonesia, these go to the dump site and produce methane, etc. Now, we did an experiment with larvae of a black soldier fly. This larvae actually eat a lot of food waste. So any kind of food waste they eat, and they eat twice as much as their weight every day. So I'm 74 kilogram. So it's like I eat 150 kilos of food every day. That's how much these larvae eat, and convert into protein, right? And so this larvae becomes food for livestock, such as this koi, duck, or pig, or they even creating for dogs and cats. So this is the third spin-off that we created. So that's what we do. We are always looking out for interesting innovations. We test it, we try it in the field, and some of the innovations can be high-tech, and some of the innovation can be extremely low-tech, but we are trying and take risk to find what really works to solve the problems in the poor communities. Thank you.